10. Carol Jenkins. Carol Jenkins lost her life on September 16, 1968. Although she didn't lose it as much as it was taken from her by two white men in Indiana. Carol was an African-American woman born in the town of Franklin back in 1947. She had 5 brothers and sisters and some pretty hefty aspirations. She wanted to move to Chicago and become a famous model. She graduated from high school in 1965, got a job working for the Ford Motor Company, and then lost it during the union strike. That was when she decided to supplement her income by becoming a door-to-door saleswoman for encyclopedias. As strange as that may sound today, door-to-door sales, and yes, even encyclopedias, were all the rage back in the 60s. On September 16th, Carol dressed in a typical saleswoman outfit, a white cotton turtleneck, some green wool pants, a brown jacket, and a yellow scarf. At 20 years old, she was confident her first day selling encyclopedias would be a huge success. To impress her boss, Carol volunteered to sell in Martinsville, which at the time was considered a sundown town. For those not familiar with the term, sundown towns were all white neighborhoods. In the case of Martinsville, it was an entire town that practiced racial segregation and excluded anyone not white from doing anything within their borders. By 8 o'clock that night, Carol was dead. 2 men had gotten out of their vehicle, pinned her down in the street, and stabbed her right in the heart with a screwdriver. She bled out on the road and the murder case went cold for 30 years. Police didn't identify her killer until 2000 as a man named Kenneth Clay Richmond, a member of the notorious Ku Klux Klan. But he was deemed incompetent to stand trial at his old age and died from bladder cancer 2 years later. Whoever his accomplice was, they've still never been identified. 9. Daniel Young's dream job. Daniel Young was on his way to work in the UK to start his first week at his dream job. Daniel was originally from Devon, but moved to London several years before, securing himself a job at Coventry University's London campus. It was a prestigious position, one that had taken a lot of work and dedication to get hold of. Dr. Janet Hanna from the university said everyone was sad to hear of his death, especially since Daniel was only at the start of what would have undoubtedly been a successful academic career. He never had a chance to see that opportunity through to the end though, because just 10 minutes after he left his home at the edge of London, he was stabbed to death. Daniel was trying to get into the subway so he could take the train to work, and a maniac jumped out of a bush in Kendall Gardens and killed him. The killer was later identified as Mark Loveridge, a man in his 30s who admitted to plunging the knife into Daniel's stomach. Mark was a paranoid schizophrenic who hadn't taken his medication that day and had struggled his whole life with violence and drug abuse. He pleaded manslaughter in the case and was sent to the Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital until deemed mentally well enough to go to a real prison. 8. Christmas Nightmare. Catherine Walker was excited to start her first day at the new Amazon facility in her town of Petersburg, Virginia back in 2012. It was her dream job, as it was for many a decade ago. But things went very wrong for Catherine. Just 2 days before she was going to start, she got a phone call saying her job was already gone. Back in 2012, Amazon was a big deal, and working at one of their fulfillment centers was a huge opportunity. Catherine, even at 43 years old, was so excited for her chance to work there that she quit her full-time job at a healthcare center. She was a single mother supporting 4 kids, and suddenly she was out of a job. Just before her first day, she got a call saying the position had already been filled and she would need to find work somewhere else. The issue here was that Catherine had been using a company from Delaware that hires temporary workers for Amazon. She wasn't actually hired by the Amazon company themselves, but by a third-party talent resource. Suddenly, Catherine had no way to feed her kids. The good news is that the story went viral, and Amazon offered her an immediate position at their warehouse, so everything turned out okay in the end. 7. Doordash ambush. A driver with Doordash, the food delivery service, was fatally shot in Detroit during his first day on the job. It was July 2022, and the first time Dajor Russ had delivered food to people's houses, he ended up getting killed. According to the Detroit police, Dajor had left his car and was on his way to drop off food at somebody's door when a random vehicle drove past, fired shots at him, and kept on driving. One of the bullets hit Dajor in the foot, but he was thankfully still alive. The car then circled around and unleashed another barrage of bullets, which this time killed Dajor. The police believe this was a targeted killing, since they say it's unlikely the car would have driven by twice to make sure their target was dead unless they'd been after the jaw specifically. But there have been no suspects named, the investigation is still ongoing, and the police haven't provided any other details at this time. 6. Fired before the first day. In 2015, Caitlin Walls, a single mom in Texas, learned that posting things on social media can be dangerous. She was fired from her job at a daycare center before she was able to work her first day. And it was all because of an opinion she put on a Facebook post. On the first day she was supposed to start working, she posted on Facebook about how much she hates working in the childcare industry. She also wrote, "Lol, I just really hate being around a lot of kids. Not a great first impression." Since Caitlin's privacy settings were set so anyone could see what she posted, the post was passed around to the entire community until her new bosses found it. And since they couldn't exactly hire someone that bragged about hating working with children, she was fired before her first day. Before Caitlin could fully grasp the scope of the situation, she had become a social pariah. Her Facebook wall turned into a hate-strewn page full of insults. People called her dumb, and some even said she had the bubonic plague for some strange reason. When Caitlin spoke to local news, she said the event devastated her and that she actually cried about it. She said she wasn't trying to offend anybody and that she doesn't actually hate children. She was just venting before starting a new job, and it was misunderstood. Well, at least she won't have to work with children again. 5. The profane debut of A.J. Clement. Iowa news anchor A.J. Clement had a rough first day of work in April 2013. His first day as an anchor for NBC's affiliate in Bismarck, North Dakota was an absolute disaster. As his co-anchor was introducing him, AJ busted out 3 of the worst swear words you could say on live TV in a row. They were live on the air and AJ wasn't paying attention, cursing loudly to himself as the cameras came on and everyone at home could see. Following the incredibly embarrassing 30 seconds of his first day as a news anchor, AJ went to Twitter and released a non-stop flow of tweets, until eventually the network let him go, deciding to go in a different direction instead. 4. First day dispute. In November 2021, a man in Alabama had his first day working at a steel tube manufacturing facility. Sadly, his first day on the job was also his last day on planet Earth. The man got into a dispute with a co-worker and wound up getting shot to death. The Jefferson County officials say the shooting happened at Samwell Associated Tube Group in Birmingham. The victim was 29-year-old John Eric Cole, who was excited to finally be working for a decent pay. The man who killed him was Dexter Walker. John and Dexter had not known each other before John's first shift. They'd never seen each other outside of work, so there wasn't any bad blood between the two. All we know is something happened with them that made Dexter pull out a gun and shoot John in the back repeatedly until he was sure John was dead. Whatever the argument had been about, it must have been serious enough that Dexter committed murder. When police arrived, he handed himself over voluntarily to be thrown in prison, probably for the rest of his life. 3. Death by Bacardi. In August 2012, a worker was killed at the Bacardi bottling corp plant in Jacksonville. He was just 21 years old, and it was his very first day on the job. As a guy in his early 20s, he was excited to be working inside the manufacturing plant for Bacardi, the world-famous alcohol. Unfortunately, he wouldn't leave the plant alive that day. His name was Lawrence Davis, a temporary worker brought in to help with a particularly busy season. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, the Bacardi Bottling Corp had been in violation of at least 12 safety rules. It was this lack of safety that led to the tragic and brutal death of Lawrence. Because, you see, the young man was crushed underneath a piece of heavy equipment. He was sent to clean glass from underneath the hoist of a palletizing machine when another worker, not realizing he was under there, restarted it. This caused Lawrence to quite literally be squished to death under all the weight. OSHA blamed Bacardi for the incident, saying they'd failed to properly train the temporary employee on how to run the machine in a safe way. At the end of the day, Lawrence lost his life and Bacardi was given a fine of $192,000. This was despite 9 other major citations already issued, all of them accusing the company of exposing workers to dangerous conditions and potentially deadly hazards. That's across all 27 of their production locations, which produce about 45,000 cases of Bacardi bottles a day. Something to think about next time you open a bottle. 2. Dylan Harrison. Dylan Harrison was killed in October 2021 on a Saturday, leaving behind his cherished wife and new baby. He was shot during his first day on the job, a brand new cop in Georgia. And believe it or not, Dylan was killed right outside the actual police station at about 1 o'clock in the morning. It was his first part-time shift, although he had been involved with law enforcement since 2018 in a different field of work. Just weeks before the killing, Dylan's father argued with him to leave this dangerous job and become an electrician. Instead, Dylan went fully in, becoming an actual part-time cop. He was shot outside the police station, ambush style. Investigators believe it was retaliation for what happened several hours before when he used his taser on a suspect. That suspect's friend then ambushed Dylan outside the police station to get revenge. The killer was identified as Damian Ferguson, and he was ultimately charged with murder and sent to prison. 1. The Rookie Cop. Ashley Gwindon's first day as a cop also happened to be her last. The 28-year-old joined the William County Police Department in February 2016, only to get fatally shot on her first day. This department operated out of Woodbridge, Virginia, and one of Ashley's first tasks as a rookie cop was to investigate a domestic violence call. Ashley and 2 other officers approached the front door of Ronald Hamilton's home at 5:30 p.m. on a Saturday. As they came up, Ronald pulled out a weapon and opened fire on all 3 officers. Ashley was killed and the other officers were injured. When a backup squad of cops showed up and Ronald finally surrendered, they discovered his wife Crystal Hamilton dead inside. The couple had gotten into a verbal altercation, which quickly escalated to physical violence. After the wife contacted police, Ronald flew into a rage and shot her to death. Sometime while this was happening, their 11-year-old son slipped out the back door and ran away. Since his mother was dead and his father was charged with capital murder of a police officer and 1 count of first-degree murder, along with 2 counts of malicious wounding of a police officer, the poor young boy became an orphan that night. Thanks for watching. What's your worst first day experience? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.